Welcome. This is the Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Act was provided by written notice on January 3, 2019 to the Courier News, the Echo Sentinel, the Star Ledger, Tappan to Warren, and the clerks of the Borough of Watchung and the townships of Greenbrook, Long Hill, and Warren. Mr. Stiles, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Barone.
Here.
Ms. Demizio.
Here.
Mr. Fahey.
Here.
Mr. Hayek.
Here.
Mr. Hunsinger.
Here.
Mr. Martins.
Here.
Mr. Morrison.
Here.
Ms. Over.
Here.
Dr. Shabilsky.
Here.
And Mr. Fallon.
Yes. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion in accordance with the provision of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, be it hereby resolved that the board move into executive session to discuss confidential personnel matters, WHREA negotiations, and school security, after which action will be taken. It is expected that the matters discussed in executive session will be made public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Gary, we'll be back at 1:30. Okay, we're back in public session. Thank you for your indulgence, everyone. We're a few minutes late. I'm going to invite Gary Vinci up now from Lurch, Vinci and Higgins. They've been our auditors for a number of years, and it's that time of year where Gary comes and tells us everything Tim has done wrong, which is usually a very, very short list.
There will be a short meeting. Good evening, all. I know this is actually very late for the submission of the audit. I'm sure Tim has kept the board apprised of the issues that the state had with providing information to the various school districts in the state, as well as to the auditors. So information that we needed to finish the June 18 audit was only provided to us 2 weeks ago. So that's why the report is so late in comparison to the last 10 years. I don't think it's ever been this late, to be honest with you. But let's hope that we don't have that same problem for the June 19 audit with the state. Obviously, it's out of everybody's control here, but we can only do the best with the information that we are provided.
And I will confirm for the public that what Gary has just told us is absolutely true. Gary and his firm gets these audits done on time and promptly, and this has literally been, we couldn't get the information from the state until, as Gary said, just a few weeks ago. And Tim had kept us informed of that. And Gary, we do appreciate the effort your firm put into getting us here this quickly after we finally got the information.
Okay, my pleasure. Just to give you a recap, financially, obviously, the district continues to maintain very strong reserves. I don't know if you have the synopsis of audit that was provided? Okay. So the first page of the synopsis actually is your balance sheet at June 30, and the most important fund actually is your general fund. That's actually your budgetary account. And if you look halfway down, you will see a caption called Fund Balances. That area summarizes all of your legal reserves and surplus at June 30th. So your total reserves and surplus, we call it fund balances, were just over $5.3 million. That's actually about $800,000 less than the prior year. But still, I think when you look at the total amount, it's a very healthy amount of fund balance. The largest amount that's earmarked is what you have set aside for capital reserve. You have just about, at June, just over $3 million. Keep in mind, of that $3 million, the board did use $604,000 toward projects that were budgeted in 18-19. So the balance that's remaining, just under $2.4 million, is available for projects for the balance of this school year or for any future year. Keep in mind the capital reserve monies are earmarked only for those projects that would be in your long-range facility plan. Your maintenance reserve is just under $250,000, and that was about $50,000 more than the prior year. There have been money set aside for your tuition calculations with Greenbrook, and that's a total of $200,000, of which, again, $100 was used in 18-19's budget. The next two areas, as part of the audit, we have to calculate whether you have, state calls it excess surplus. It's basically anything more than 2% of your expenditures that are not earmarked for a legal reserve. And at the end of the June 18 audit, the amount of excess surplus is $503,000. That amount of money will actually go into the 19-20 school budget as a revenue when you then balance the budget. I see Tim has a presentation tonight. I'm sure he has that, and we'll review that with the board. In comparison, the prior year amount was $523,000. So it's very important to keep your excess surplus relatively stable because that impacts your tax rate, and obviously you want to try to keep a stable tax rate in your future years. If you go to the bottom, the unassigned fund balance that's left is roughly $580,000. Keep in mind, that does not include your state aid payments that came in July. Years ago, the state deferred making state aid payments on a school year basis, and they bounced the last month to the month of July. Since they did that, we cannot accrue that as a receivable. Had that been received by June 30th, that unassigned would have been just over $1.1 million. And that's the difference between what we call a GAAP basis and a budgetary basis. But I think overall, financially, the district continues to be in excellent financial condition. As a result of our audit testing, we had no recommendations. Our opinion that we rendered annually this year was what we call an unmodified or a clean opinion, meaning that all the testing came back positive. We had support for all the balance sheet accounts and all your financial statements. So congratulations to Tim and the business office. They do a great job for the board.
Yes.
If this-
And although we on this board have gotten used to getting these types of audit reports from Gary's firm year after year, it really is a testament to the skill and expertise of Tim and his office, because there are many districts that don't get these sort of year in, year out clean reports. And since my first year on this board in 2006, there has never been a period where we've had a recommendation repeated for a second year. They've always gotten taken care of, even when there were recommendations. But we've had many years like this with no recommendations, which means basically that when Gary and his team of auditors come in and put the microscope up the proverbial rear end, they don't find any difficult problems. So thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. If there's any questions from the board?
Thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Stiles.
All right. Thanks for the kind words there, Pete, as usual. I couldn't do that. My staff they're terrific. I couldn't do that without them. This thing. Yeah, they're terrific. And you're only as good as your weakest link, and there's no weak links in that group. They're tough. They do a good job. And you can ask all the administrators. They do exactly what they're told by my staff. So they do exactly what they're really good. Anyway, so this is a preliminary budget presentation. It's only about 6 or 7 slides, so we're not going to get into the heavy detail of what's in the budget. There's a couple I will give you some previews of what we're looking at, things that, some of the revenues and some of the appropriations, the key items that are changing from year to year, but nothing too specific. And when I get into the timeline, I can kind of go through with you when we're going to be doing what we're going to be doing this year. So, let's see. So obviously, I'll start out thanking the board and all our committees. We do an awful lot of work throughout the year talking about the budget in committee. It doesn't just happen at the end of the year, it happens all year long. Everything we talk about has a financial implication, and the board, all the board members are involved. When we put together the budget with the supervisors and the principals, or principal, what we do is we hand them the strategic plan goals, and we tell them, whatever you're gonna put into this budget, you have to defend using the strategic plan goals. So it's very important for us to communicate to them, this is the direction the board wants, and you have to follow it. So when they come to meet with us, and they do, they have to defend the things they're putting forth, and they have to make reference to that strategic plan. And in the budget timeline, we start back in the beginning of October. So from October through December, we're gathering information from the supervisors, the principal. We're getting all the other information, the utilities, the health benefits, and that good stuff. And, then we're compiling, and then we meet with them and go over all their proposals, all their additions, and we look at staffing, amongst other things. And in January, we receive, usually it's earlier, this year was kind of late. I think it was because the audit was late getting out to them, and that was actually because of them. So the Department of Ed was slow giving us information that we needed to get this thing going in terms of the budget software. I don't have all of the software yet, but we did get what we needed to calculate the tuition, which is a big number for us and Greenbrook, obviously. It's a little over $7 million, $8 million in that range. So in late January, we do that. The next thing is on February 4th, that's tonight, or 5th, I'm sorry. We have this initial presentation. And then on the next meeting, before the next meeting, we'll have an operations meeting, and we'll go through some of the detail with the operations committee. The operations committee will give information to you on March 5th. On March 5th, I'll have all the information except the one piece that's not going to be perfect is the state aid. The state aid will come out 2 days after the governor's address, which is tentatively scheduled for, I put a little question mark on there, March 5th. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to do it then. We'll see. It's not on his website yet. I didn't see it. But anyway, so we usually get it a couple days after that. And I'll go through the state aid and what we're thinking about that. And then on March 19th, we have to do a preliminary board vote on the budget that goes to the county for approval. So that's not the final budget, that's just a preliminary budget. And then the next month, the county reviews it, they approve, and on April 24th, we have our public hearing on the budget. So essentially for the board, it's kind of, even though we've been doing work on it, it starts here, and then it goes all the way through April 24th. The biggest number that or the biggest thing we always look at right off the bat is where's our enrollment going to be? And oddly enough, it's practically flat. I have it flat here. It could go up or down 1 or 2, you don't know. But based on what we're looking at, based on the information we got from the sendings, we're about flat. I just got the 5-year demographic study. I haven't really looked at it yet, other than I looked at the numbers. They are going down after this. I do want to pay a little more attention to the building that's going on, and I want to see how the demographer captured that, because I wasn't sure when I looked at the report.